I suck at commitment, so I ditched my level 1 run of the MSQ and wandered into the DLC. Big surprise, big reward. Here we go.
Now, to the meat of your endeavor.
By the way, allergies suck and I have allergies, so I sound like crap. Deal with it. I love you. So here's the rules. Stay level 1. Easy enough, right? Difficulty will be set to the expert difficulty, the one bump up from adept. It makes me way more killable, and I'm forced to use my entire toolkit. Okay, so it doesn't really matter, but my character at this point was being twinked out to smash the MSQ. I power leveled the light armor skill quite a good bit, and had the highest HP and strength I could manage at level 1, hence red guard. That's likely where the boredom came from. I, for some reason, just can't stand optimized builds. Anyway, I had just completed the Kvatch part of the MSQ before attempting to complete the Shivering Isles for the first time in like 20 years. Really, I didn't really remember anything about it. All I could remember from the DLC was Sheogorath and his silly suit, some weird knight guys, and the madness or armor. You know what I'm talking about. I couldn't remember anything else. For a guy who absolutely smashed some hours on Oblivion over the years, I never really touched the DLC. I'll talk some more about that later. I guess I'm a liar already because I did remember the opening sequence. Holy Somolini, I liked it a lot. The crazy guy who pops out of the portal, who'd gone mad, was just incredible. He really sets the tone, you know? Like, when you expect some twisted, mind-altering plane of Oblivion or something, but you get Haskell instead. The manservant, you know? Yeah, he's really neat. I found him to be oddly tame at the time, you know? Like, he's the physical embodiment of the contract between the bipolar reality and the risk of losing your own sanity as the player. He's like if Morpheus from the Matrix, you know, if he were indifferent to the whole affair, he'd be like, just take the pill you want. I truly couldn't care less type of attitude. The way the room comes alive and literally flutters away. And the landscape is a really nice departure from the original map. It actually looks like a DLC. That is, it's different. I was met with alien mushrooms, stone pillars, and ruins from people past. There are these goofy cucumber things that look like fly traps or something that I just really like too. They're really neat. The first enemy is a Grummite whelp. I would be getting very accustomed to the Grummites. As a level 1, the whelps are extremely common. At this point, though, they are actually a serious threat with their poisons and fast attacks, believe it or not. I took to using my bow whenever I could as an opener. So I met my first real NPC, Sheldon, who warns me about this Gatekeeper. I did actually remember the Gatekeeper too. It's hard to forget that guy. He's a painful, unkillable guard who holds the key to the gates of madness. Haskell tells me that I needed to get the keys, so I went on to investigate.
It's the Gatekeeper.
The Gatekeeper himself, or itself, I don't know, is a wonderfully disgusting-looking amalgamation. It looks like your gym partner's gym socks, that he never washed once in the 8th grade, you know? Or if one of those powerlifting champ guys swapped an arm for a sword and gave up showers. Or if Dwayne Johnson fused with a meatball sub. Yeah. The Gatekeeper crushes some adventures, and the locals laugh about it. Sweet. I talked to a guy named Fellas Sarandis who agrees that the Gatekeeper was as scary as Lou Ferrigno with toe fungus and told me some guy named J-Rid wanted it dead too. So I took a stroll back into the village, I guess you could say. There weren't many buildings, but... Oh, yeah. I ran into that orc adventurer captain, and he was like, nah, dude, I'm out. I wonder if he came from Cyrodiil or was a native of the area? I don't know. Oh, yeah. The village's name was Passwall. I kind of figured with a name like that, it would be important later. Oh, by the way, I'm using the Kavach Cuirass and the Kavach Shield. Fine steel sword and bow at this point, I think. I also had that icy sword that's supposed to be the best in the game, but the level 1 variant was really, really bad. I think is it Chillrend? Anyway, so I met up with J-Red, who was a real peach. The writing here was really compelling. It's like, go to this crazy world, meet some guys who might be crazy, watch a group of supposedly not crazy guys die to a monster, but maybe they're the crazy ones for trying to kill an unkillable monster to begin with. Then you meet this crazy bone-talking weirdo who actually sounds crazy, but you're so desperate, his crazy is starting to make sense, I think. So he has you pick a very easy lock, which is hilarious, and I fought some skeletons. Okay, so I'm told these skeletons would be leveled to the Shambler guys if you actually came here at the appropriate level. The guy kind of got stuck, and I had to manually shove him to the Guardian skeleton. It was kind of funny. Anyway, so you see this door right here to the Gardens of Flesh and Bone? Well, later on in the run, I encountered a weird bug where it just didn't exist anymore. Anyway, we steal some Guardian bones, and J-Red plays with his bone tool, arrows, for a while. Then we head off to slay the big buff guy from Prometheus. If you've watched any of my stuff, you know that I don't really like to use bows much. I'm one of those big stick go bonk kind of players, you know? But the bows in the remaster feel good. I feel like at least a lightly armored, or as a lightly armored warrior, they are useful for once, you know? Kind of shoot before you go in with your sword and board. So anyway, the Gatekeeper goes down quickly, despite the expert difficulty. Caskill congratulates me, as well as he can, and sends me off to see Lord Sheogorath. He tells me about Mania, which is bright and colorful, and Dementia, the land of the bleak. So, naturally, I assume this whole map is based around, like, bipolar disorder, okay? So, I went with Madness because it sounded like a masochist's paradise, which clearly I am. I kind of expected Dementia to have a lot less color, but it wasn't bad. In fact, I'm beginning to wonder if the maps look any different at all. Maybe it's just the creatures within them. I'm not sure. Let me know. I found my first hostile humanoid NPC, though. A Zealot. Or Zealot? Zealot? I'm going to go with Zealot. Whatever. I took her hat because it looked neat. I liked it a lot, actually. I used it for quite a while. I wandered towards a place called Zazelm? Zazelm, sure. And found my first little guy, the Bollywog. Dude, I love these dudes. They give me, like, Murloc vibes from World of Warcraft, but without the... You know what I mean? They make this, like, squeak when you whack them. It's charming. I like it. Anyway, I perched way high at Zazelm and become an absolute menace to some flesh atronachs. I switched to sword and cheese board for the skeletons. Honestly, I was feeling pretty good about the combat. I did feel squishy, but I was quick to block, you know, and managed my stamina. I didn't think I'd die. I was curious about the place, so I popped my head inside. I think this place is important later in the game. I'll be sure to have an aha moment. Anyway. It was more skeletons. Skeletons. And did I say skeletons? Anyway. J-Red would have a field day with all these bones, man. He would be talking up a storm. The dungeon gave me some Diablo 1 vibes, you know? Like, very straightforward, but in a good way. Oh, man. Shield blocking in the remaster is decent. I know it's kind of slow and costs a lot of fatigue or whatever, but if you do it right, it staggers better than Skyrim, I think. So, if you aren't familiar with the scaling in Oblivion, at level 1, I can level my skills to 100. My block skill is obviously quite high at this point, as I intended on twinking the character to the endgame, you know? Does anyone else actually use that term still? Twinking, you know? I guess I should stop using it since it parallels with a certain subgroup of culture. No shade, of course, but I don't want to sound weird. Meh. Alright, so my least favorite enemy makes an appearance. The zombie dog, or I think they're called skinned hounds. Anyway, they're just so aggressive. They take huge chunks of my stamina and often come in pairs. They also take like 15 hits to kill, man. It's really annoying. So I found these weird Halloween-looking buttons and gave in to my intrusive thoughts. No idea what they did. Anyway, I found a gate and continued on. I fought a skeleton or two and realized, you know, I'm in, like, a necromancer's lair. Well, duh, you might be saying. But I don't know, man. I have a degree in English, not rocket appliances. The Frankenweenie Scourge continued, but I pressed on. I was beginning to wonder how long the dungeon was. I had been in there for a while, man. So I found some scrolls that gave some exposition, though. Apparently, it was a necromancer of sorts, but they were doing, like, scientific-ish experiments on the cadavers. There was another button. Of course, I pushed it because it's me, causing some of the experiments to battle in a tiny little thunderdome of sorts. Neat. There was another room with more buttons and a cage floor, and you know I pushed them. This one had traps down there, though. Not sure how I was supposed to do it. Well, anyway, that was the end. Surely I didn't waste my time and wouldn't need to clear the dungeon again later, right? Right? So, yet another enemy presents itself. The Elytra. Elytra? Whatever. The big bug. You know, okay, so I did remember this one. It's like a praying mantis, but from hell. Well, this place is a plane of Oblivion, which is kind of like hell, so close enough. Whatever. Anyway, they aren't as bad as the dogs. Speaking of dogs, they spawn on the roads? Gosh, darn it, man. Anyway, more bollywogs. I love my bollywogs. Yeah. I found Crucible, I think the name is, the town. Sheogoras little village, town, city thing. Anyway, I went in and talked to the Dark Seducer standing guard, but I got distracted with some mushrooms. Dude, I'm telling you, I picked every freaking herb in my path and rarely used them. I figured that I would be making potions left and right for this, but no. I had so much weight sapped by shrooms. Anyway, New Sheoth is really cool. I walked on into the depressive side of town. The creepy vines on cobblestone mixed with unkempt weeds and mushrooms definitely felt like Oblivion, but more grimdark, maybe. I made my way into the courtyard and immediately remembered those giant crystal things, you know? The big silver ones. I remember some of those knights spawning around them. I couldn't remember. Okay, so at this point, all I remembered was the knights were kind of like made of crystals or something, and they had cool-looking swords that I liked as a 13.
Arrival! A shame about my gatekeeper. I'm so happy I could just tear out your intestines and strangle you with them.
Anyway, he introduces himself as Prince of Madness and other things. What are those other things? I'm genuinely curious. I have no idea. He gifts me the Charity of Madness necklace, I think is what it's called, and names me his champion. You know, he's the one that gives the Wabbajack. If you're already his champion, does he just rename you his champion? Alright, I get my first task, because what he tells me to do is important, because it's his house, his rules, I guess. Anyway, he wants me to go to a place called Zadillion and restore it, whatever that means. Oh yeah, at level 1, the variant of that necklace just gave me some base elemental resistances, like 7% or something like that, which is better than nothing. I had nothing at this point. Alright, so Zadillion was quite the jaunt, so I fast traveled to the Gates of Madness. This was one of the few times where I do this, though. I learned really quickly that it was actually worth walking around because the environment was just so quirky and full of oddities. Literally, sometimes. I played Whack-a-Bollywog, shot one of those tree ant things from World of Warcraft. You know, I should probably find another reference. Does anybody still play WoW? Anyway, I found a cool little farm called Fellmore. They appeared to be farming those mushrooms I had become so obsessed with, and you know I picked them all. I met a Khajiit named Kitty, that's it. She pulls a Matrix reference on me and calls me the one, and I laugh out loud for like the 20th time that evening. She wants my help, but just doesn't trust me enough. So I persuade her with the minigame. Seriously, you know, the minigame isn't that bad. It's really kind of fun since they added the color slides for smooth brains like me. Admittedly, I ended up paying her off a little anyway, it seems. Meh. Yeah, so she gives me a spoon. It is the Matrix. She's like the Oracle. So I went to talk to the guy, but his door never unlocked. I ended up breaking and entering, and gave him my spoon, and we became friends, the accomplices. All right. So he hates someone named Sindanwe and calls her a slave driver. I'm not really sure if slavery is legal in Sheogorath's realm, but he's not wearing one of those bracer things from Morrowind, so I don't know. Anyway, he wants her special notebook. He suspects that she's stealing his thoughts and wants them kept private. Privacy is indeed important, so I helped myself to her pockets. The other request from Kitty was to trash her house. I thought it sounded funny, so I went for it, man. I kind of skipped around on the tables like one of those 50 musicals where all the gentlemen suddenly break into dance and jump on the tables, you know? He rewards me with the Ring of Mind Shielding. Not bad, if I do say so. If only it could shield me from compulsive behavior. The side quests in this DLC really are spectacular. In fact, I'd really like to 100% the DLC at some point, as a part of some challenge or something, you know? If you'd like to see that, maybe take a second to drop a comment down there, you know? I'll wait a second. Just say, yeah, I want to see you do it. Anyway, I'm a small, silly creator, and every comment is like gold lace pudding served by Betty White. I mean, when she was alive. So, while I'm wandering towards Zadillion, I wander into what was called the Rotten Den. I'm pretty sure I just auto-followed the waypoint without looking at the name of the place, or I was just busy shooting things, I don't know. These zealots can really put the hurt on me, though. It goes to show how valuable magic resistance is at this point. For me, anyway. I stumbled into this cave, like the idiot that I am, and I find a dead adventurer or two. For some reason, I thought now was a good time to start leveling Conjuration. So you'll be seeing me summon a pair of gauntlets sometimes. I was a novice, so it's all I could do. Anyway, I fought more of those zealot guys and went full stupid and got absolutely nuked.
Oh. Aww.
For anyone who doesn't want to spam hammers or restoration for that matter, you can pick up the Tower Stone, I think it is, for this nice daily boost to armor. You won't blow through nearly as many hammers. It's one of my favorites. So, after getting humbled, I opted to sneak through and become the stealth archer I've always hated. The dungeon was over really quickly, so I rightly assumed it was an optional one. Okay, on to Zadillion. The interior looked a lot like that first place I went to, Zadillion or whatever. This time, I had more whelps to contend with, so I once again employed my shoot and then stab strategy. I found my first Grummite variant, though, the Grummite Shaman Whelp. Well, this is just a normal whelp, but they carry a magic staff. Anyway, so now I was very excited to see a staff. Like, I wanted it for those pesky situations, you know, especially with the high elf zealots. Anyway, it turns out that they're just keys that the Grummites use as weapons. Sad day for me. Basically, I needed to find these keys to proceed through the dungeon. Easy enough. just poke some holes in reptilians. To my surprise, though, I did actually find a Staff of Flames. Hooray! If only I remembered to use it, which I never did. I'd also been finding a few pieces of Madnosaur, which is nice. After finding the last key, I headed to the last part of the dungeon. I had to thump one of those big crystals, and it opened the way. Some weirdo named Caliban was really stoked to see me, though. I suppose I was stoked to see someone that didn't look like they belonged to the land of the lost, to be honest. He wanted me to help him, entertain some visitors or something. So, some adventurers came inside, and I just randomly hit a button, because, you know, it's me and I'm not smart. The adventurers then had to fight a bunch of tree ants, and one of them died. What? Did they even deserve that? Am I the baddie? So the second part had me rolling, though. I guess the two remaining adventurers got locked in a battle of no, you first, no, you first. I had to reload, unfortunately. But the trap this time was that the mage guy wanted to he wanted the treasure, but he had to find the right key, and there was no right key. It's like poetry. It just works, I guess. The last room was simple sweet. The orc thinks he's died and goes insane, too.
What?
What?
How in Oblivion can I be dead? This is impossible. Nothing killed me. I didn't even get a chance to fight.
Yeah?
No chance to defend myself.
Nope.
No chance for battle. Why?
I feel kind of bad for him.
This is impossible.
Yeah.
Gramarcus never lost a fight. Never.
Yeah. Oh. Caliban tells me I get to keep their belongings, which is hilarious. I guess crazy people don't need their stuff. Anyway, he also gives me the Dawn Dusk Sword, the level 1 variant, which was really not all that great, unfortunately. But I digress. It was over. Zadillion was a lot of fun. While it wasn't overly challenging, it was a really nice set piece. I said my goodbyes and headed for the exit. Only, I was ambushed by those night things. Where the heck did they come from? Well, after talking to Caliban again, I'm thrust formally into the main plot of the DLC. Who's sending these mysterious knights? Why are they attached to those crystal things? Why would those crystal things be in Sheogorath's palace? The mystery is unfolding. Unfortunately, this is all the time I have for this week. I know I normally post an entire episode, but I have a lot of responsibilities, and making videos and playing video games is super time-consuming, you know? But, hey, if you liked it, consider subscribing so you don't miss the next part. I really appreciate all the views and all the feedback. You guys are magnificent. I love you.
Ta! Come visit again, or I'll pluck out your eyes!